Okay, it's the day after Bedlam, and it's a tough one. Oklahoma loses 27-24 in Stillwater, and I know we're all going to have our own thoughts on this. You can say it was the refs. You can say it was Lebby. You could even say it was the execution from your players on the field. I didn't really feel like it was necessarily the personnel this time of who we were putting on the field and all the rotations like we've talked about in weeks past, but when it comes down to the execution, especially in the secondary, the players just didn't execute. And I think that killed Oklahoma this game. And it's hard for me not to come in here, Jay, and immediately start talking about how the refs blew a PI call. I mean, it happened in 2021. It happened this year. But here's the deal. Before we dive into it, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are. So make sure you're joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments. Jay, tell everybody where they can find you at.
You know where to find me. Unfair Sports. Search for me on YouTube as well as over podcasts and are downloaded and listened to. Thanks for having me, PG, as usual.
Hey, listen, I needed somebody to keep me level-headed here as I did this. I didn't record it last night because I just was not in the state of mind to record this. And I've kind of gotten myself back on track today, but there are times where I'm slipping. So let's go ahead and dive into it. 27-24, and I think a lot of people, they're going to want to talk about the PI on Drake Stoops. And I look at it and say, I don't understand how they missed it. It was definitely a game changer because Tawi punches that in at the goal line. Oklahoma goes up there. Now, then you got Oklahoma State on the ropes. There were other calls, I think, that were missed in the game that I think, would have changed the game for Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, the players didn't execute to the way that they should have to been putting themselves in a better position to win that game. And I look at the secondary specifically. I mean, you let Alan Bowman completely dice you up. 28 of 42, 334 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns, but he also didn't have any interceptions. So, I mean, you let Alan Bowman have one of his better days this year. Now, the defensive line, I thought they did a really good job of containing Ollie Gordon this game. That was where I was worried. And they went out there, and I felt like they contained him pretty well. So what were just some of your initial reactions to this game? Help talk me off of a ledge because I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time with it.
Be honest, I think the one thing to really consider in this game, and it's tough. I understand Sooner fans. I was upset. I put out an instant reaction video and just talked through it for about 10 minutes to get it off my chest. Same issue with the pass interference. Same issue with the refs. We've seen it here. Hell, if you go to my video, Texas fans are in there saying, yep, you are right. We're seeing the exact same thing. And so, but the thing is to remember is that we're gone. This is our last year. They're going to throw home cooking at us every time we hit the road. It is what it is. I mean, that play was egregious and probably changed the entire outcome of the game because, like you said, Tywee or even Salcha punches that in for a touchdown. That's a score. We didn't get that opportunity. And so since we didn't get that opportunity, game over. Boom, we're done. My initial reaction with this is really the same thing I've said every week. We don't need to let the refs be the ones that determine the end of these games. We've got to stop thinking they're our friend. We've got to stop thinking we're going to get the call because we get the call in certain situations. We do a really good job of forcing their hand where they have to call it. But we've got to put ourselves in situations where we ain't got to worry about that. Where we the ones out there closing it out. We got to do our job as a team to make sure that we're not worried about the refs in the end. The refs will keep it close, but we should close the game out. That's something to remember. If you remember that, it's a lot easier to stomach. But overall, we are starting to regress towards the mean. Hopefully, we've fallen under it. And once these injuries that we have, and we bring back some of the vets back in and we get better, like Stutzman, Gentry Williams, get back healthy. We start getting some of these healthier players in. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine for the rest of the season. We should be able to finish the year with 10 wins. That's the goal. 8 wins, I'm still happy. Still happy if we go 8-5, but I would prefer us to hit 10. We should be able to go hit 10, well, 8-4. We should be able to go win 10 games and close this out. We've got West Virginia. We've got after that, we travel to BYU. We close the season out against TCU. So there's 3 more games. We win those. That's 10-2 and still a shot at the Big 12 championship. That's what I'm hoping for. We should be able to do it, though.
Yeah, and I kind of went on this thought process yesterday, and we talked about it in our group chat. For those of you who don't know, we just have a little content creator group chat talking about college football. But I talked about it yesterday, and I said, maybe we jumped on the bandwagon of this team going to win a national championship too quickly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
we have unreal expectations here. You know that.
Yeah, and I get it. They were 6-0. They had beat Texas. They looked really, really good up to that point. But I think the fact was they were 6-0, and we were maybe overlooking things. Things that ultimately came up to bite Oklahoma. And then I don't know what happened when they went into a bye week. I mean, it's like this team forgot how to take care of some of the fundamentals in this game and be disciplined. So for me, I look at this and I say, Oklahoma, they did what they needed to a point to win the game. But at the same time, you turned the ball over 3 times. 3 times. And in fact, you had 4 fumbles in this game. You could have lost the turnover battle 5-1. You only ended up getting away with 3-1. So, and this has been a common theme for Oklahoma over the past 3 weeks. They're not taking care of the ball. I mean, look at last week against Kansas.
No, you're right. You're right. And we're sloppy right now.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I get it. I look at the play-by-play, and I look at the third quarter or the fourth quarter when Oklahoma State gets that touchdown to go up 24-21. And right after that, what does Oklahoma do? They come out and they fumble the ball. Dylan Gabriel fumbles the ball. And I get it. Some people will say, well, that drive right before that fumble killed all momentum Oklahoma had. Because, well, you get the pass interference call. BV gets 15. You get an offsides. I mean, you gave, I think, Oklahoma State 40 yards on that 97-yard drive. But at the end of the day, we can't blame the refs on that drive because the defense didn't do what they needed to make that stop. Now, they did at the beginning, and regardless whether you want to look at that pass interference call and say, well, it should have been called in the offense, Jay, I think you were telling me that you think it was the right call. Well, you know, I think it was the wrong call. I think Vickers was pushed down. And I think
I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I think the VV call, that's 100% caused by the pass interference call not being called in Oklahoma's favor. So you potentially get Oklahoma State punting in their end zone. It's a huge momentum shift for Oklahoma. But again, I was talking to Ty about this earlier, and I said, Ty, talk me off of the ledge saying that the refs weren't the problem in this game. And he said, listen, normally I am the champion for refs don't lose you the game. But he said, Oklahoma, those were some egregious calls. So, I mean, Jay, do you think, because I know some people are going to say Lebby. I'm not on the Lebby train this game. I think Lebby called a pretty good game outside of the last drive. I'm on the train that.
So that's where I'm at. And I've been on this train the entire season. And this is when I tell everybody where the problem is with Lebby. He called a really good game, except for in the clutch moments. That's where we lose games. You don't lose games if you call a good game throughout the whole game, you're going to keep the game close, right? When it matters the most, he's been awful. And that's why I always say, no, it's Lebby. It is. We're at that point now where this feels like the Josh Heupel era of Oklahoma.
I was
defensively, we were still there. But offensively, certain moments, Heupel was not a good recruiter of quarterbacks. Just keeping it honest. He didn't get you any world beaters. He also had a tendency of being stubborn, and you saw it in his coaching. Then guess what happened? We let him go. He went out, took a couple jobs, got there at UCF as an OC underneath Scott Frost. And what happened? Started to evolve. Got a little bit more aggressive. I mean, he spent a year at Utah State, spent a couple years at Missouri, went to UCF as the head coach once Frosty left. Actually, he wasn't underneath Frost. He took the job after Frost left, but he was at Missouri for 2 years. A year at Utah State. So he left Oklahoma. He's at Oklahoma from 06 to 14, from quarterback coach and co-OC, 11 to 14. Then they went ahead and let him go. He went to Utah State, got a year under his belt, went to Missouri, did some SEC coaching, took the job at UCF, and it became a different animal. Different coach. Different type of coach. That, to me, is when that evolution started. He had to bounce around a little bit. And I think that that's kind of something that we may need to see out of Lebby. And that's why I say Lebby needs to grow. He's been a OC at 2 stops. UCF, Ole Miss, underneath 2 really, really heavy offensive coaches. This is his first job as OC with the defensive-minded guy that doesn't put his hands in everything. That's where you're seeing a problem. That's where your issue runs into. And it's just inexperience. Just like BV is inexperienced as head coach. Lebby needs more experience. It's probably time for him to go take a G5 head coaching job, learn his decision-making, and boom, go from there. I think he'll be fine long-term, but he has been very, very predictable in his clutch play calls. But besides that, the refs had their parts. I'll give it to Okie Light fans. When Woody Washington didn't call for that pass interference on that pass he defended, he was tugging on the jersey. That's very common. That happens all the time. The bigger thing is that if that was called, we probably still would have got the 3 and out on the next possession because we were doing that. And as you mentioned before, Bowman was doing a really good job of hitting our underneath because our zone is just not very good right now. And I think that's because we're young. Zone's a lot better with veterans because they know how to adjust themselves in the zone. They don't focus on their one spot. This is one theory, and I'll pass it back to you, PG. One theory I've always had about your college to your pro players and the problem you run into with collegiate players going into the NFL is this. Especially when it comes to defensive zone, in the NFL, you have to be at the mentality that I have a zone area, but I'm following where the ball is going and I'm shifting myself. In college, a lot of these guys, this is your zone area, and they stay in their zone area. They don't shift as the QB moved. Example, Kanik had 3rd down play. I think it was a tight end that caught it, or maybe it was Owens, can't remember. But Kanik looked at the quarterback, saw where he was going, finally found his dude, looked back at the quarterback, and the receiver went back like 2 yards behind him. And you saw Kanik turn and book towards him, reach his hand out, missed the play. It was a 1st down. If Kanik was kept his eye, he saw the eyes of Bowman, and he saw where that receiver was going. If he had been backpedaling the entire time towards him, Bowman wouldn't have thrown that throw. He probably would have got sacked. But he eyeballed that receiver the entire time, and Kanik missed it. Just young. He was in his zone, in his spot. He just did not get enough depth in preparation for the pass. Because Kanik's fast enough that, and he's big enough, strong enough, he could have jumped up and deflected a pass if Bowman would have ran up like he was going to scramble. But that's your problem with your zones is a lot of the college guys stay only in their area and they don't shift. And it's young. It's a youth thing. It's a lack of experience thing, and that's something we've got to get better at.
So it sounds like for you, it's all 3: execution, Lebby, and refs.
Yeah, 100%. I blame execution in Lebby 1 and 2. And just like I said, Lebby coached. He did. It was actually a solid play. I mean, we put up some numbers. We just didn't close out like we're supposed to in the end. Yeah.
I think the
Yeah,
problem
but
that
the
I have
refs,
is
we can't rely on them. And that's where BV and that penalty came in. Bro, you know that they don't like us. Stop hoping that they're going to like let things slide. Gundy did the exact same thing you did. And guess what happened?
nothing.
Nothing. Exactly.
Now, Lebby dialed up a 492-yard offense day. And I think a lot of people look at that fourth down call with Drake Stoops in the last drive for Oklahoma. Who do you blame for that, Jay? Because I look at it and I
Lebby.
say, well, it was a bad play call, but at the same time, it might have worked. Stoops has got to be more aware of where he's at on the field.
I agree with you there. That's not you're definitely not. Don't get it twisted when I say this. You're not off on that.
Just because that
You
play
don't
call
run
normally gets you a first down.
You don't run a pick play with one of your best receivers and take him out the play like that. You need every option available on 4th and 5 in clutch. See what I'm saying? That's where you fell apart. You took Nick Anderson out of that play by making him run a pick. Now, if they would have made those slants a little bit harder to where Nick could have come up more and not actually did the pick, but tried to run in the lane to where the defenders hit each other, you had Nick Anderson open across the middle. But Nick was out the play because his job was to go get a pick, was to run in their way and not really focus on trying to catch the ball. You eliminate that, guess what? First down, maybe even touchdown. Because Nick did that during the game. When he got that 59-yard catch, did you see how that play went down?
Oh, he was wide open.
Nick ran across the field. And you know why he was wide open, though, right?
No.
He made the two defenders run into each other. The route he ran, the two Oklahoma State defenders hit each other. So technically, Dylan had two wide open players. I forgot who the other receiver was. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, shoot. That's why he was open. They literally collided trying to get around each other and collapsed just like that. He's wide open.
Yeah.
You got two beasts at wide receiver. Him and Farouk. We only played Jaden Gibson one snap.
But you made sure to play some other receivers that you haven't seen all
We
season.
got Brennan like 5.
I'm glad we got
I
more
like
Brennan
Stoops
Thompson.
across the middle. I like Stoops across the middle. I like Brennan on a deep pass. And I like him on a deep pass once you get the safeties up and you make him just run straight. And as soon as you hike the ball, you just throw it. Don't wait. And that's the one thing, that's my critique on Gabriel. Don't wait. Don't wait for him to get open. Don't wait for him to look open. Brennan's going to outrun him. Just throw that thing deep and let him just run. That's where that interception came in. If DG had threw that ball 2 seconds earlier, Brennan might have been open. He took a shot. I'm not mad at it. It ended up being a punt on first down. Got to throw it earlier. I need Gabriel to throw it earlier for the fast receivers. And I think we'll be fine.
So, since we're talking about Gabriel here, I have to ask this question because I've already seen it pop up all over social media. Is it time for Jackson Arnold to play? Like, is it time to say Dylan Gabriel, like, we need to move on?
If you're ready for Lebby to run out the exact same plays and Jackson Arnold miss on the exact same ones, sure.
But my question
is,
are people going to be as mad about it? Are people going to be as mad about it if it's Jackson Arnold doing it?
If we lose games because Jackson Arnold isn't hitting wide open receivers or the play is a bunch of jet sweeps and the passes are behind receivers or ahead of them, because remember, J.A. still doesn't have the full playbook, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So we run a limited playbook and J.A. gets some big plays, but then he's throwing bad passes on jet sweeps. Then what? He's not going to be. I don't expect Jackson Arnold to complete 71% of his passes as a freshman.
And
that's going to make people mad.
Jackson Arnold is a little bit, I think he's 2 inches taller than Dylan Gabriel. Those 2 inches ain't making that big of a difference.
Not right. Not when you have offensive linemen that are 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
It's still anticipatory passing. Right. It's still anticipatory passing. But we're going to run a lot of jet sweeps. How happy would you be about that?
Oh, I would be pissed.
Real quick though. Why is everybody mad at the way that Jackson Arnold's being used right now?
Because he's being used more like Belldozer.
Do you think that it's going to change? And I want an honest opinion. Do you actually think that's going to change?
No, but I think it's smart. I think what they're doing is smart. I think it works.
That's my point. You know what everybody complained about? Why are we using him like the Belldozer? Because that's what Lebby wants to use him like.
Because it worked
if
with Blake
he keeps
Bell,
doing that,
worked
then
with
what?
Jackson Arnold.
If tell me, how would you feel about him doing that? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the question I ask people. Yeah, put in Jackson Arnold. He's going to sling that thing all over the place. No. He's going to run the plays that the coach gives him.
And the thing is, the opponents know that's what Jackson Arnold's doing when he comes out there. They can't stop it.
Maybe.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit ago. Time to move on from Lebby. At the end of the season, I don't think this is a mid-season firing type of deal. I think that would be a mistake. I don't think this team needs that kind of turnover. And I don't think you need that kind of turnover on the recruiting trail. Now, if Lebby leaves, I don't think you lose Sperry or Arnold as much as, I think there's some people that freak out about that. I don't think that's going to be a problem, right? I don't think Lebby's going to do that, and I don't think those players follow Lebby anyways. But we've talked about the play calling, and although I didn't feel like Lebby was 100% at the problem like a bunch of people are acting, Lebby does carry a lot of the blame this season. Is it time to move on from Lebby? And if so, who are you replacing Lebby with? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like there's a lot of OCs out there right now. I mean, not that are available.
I do. I would keep, personally, this is just me, I would potentially look at doing one of the two guys on our staff right now.
Matt Wells
as head coaching experience.
Who else?
Seth Luttrell. Simple.
So you wouldn't even look.
We don't need to make it complicated. Huh?
You wouldn't even look externally. You would just look internally.
No. Nope. Matt Wells coached at Tech from 19 to 21, and they had some potent offenses back then.
Okay. That's a pretty easy answer to the question.
Yeah, just stay internal, man. Just go with the guys you have and have them run both have head coaching experience. Remember, Matt Wells was the head coach at Utah State when Josh Heupel was there. He hired him in 2015. So obviously we're running a similar system, right? Easy to understand, easy to translate. Wells can do it.
Okay.
I say go for it.
Do you think Venables does it by the end of the season? Do you think he does it at the end of the season? I mean, that's the question.
I think he does at the end of the season. I think it's the end of a season change. I think Heupel gets him. I think Lebby's been offered the opportunity to interview for a few different G5 jobs. He wants to wait for a P5. I think he gets encouraged to go look at one of those G5s. Just go ahead and get the experience now. Get it out the way. A lot of these G5s won't take you with the minimal experience he has. Go ahead and take advantage of it. Get yourself a G5. Run that bad boy up. Move into one of the bigger jobs, the better ones that's going to be available within the next 5 years. There's going to be a good job available in 5 years. Go for it there.
Path to the Big 12 championship for Oklahoma. I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier. So this loss hurts you. It knocks you out of any playoff or national championship contending hopes you had. Knocks you out of the Big 12 championship game, at least for now. But we look at it and say, well, the path might not be as hard as we think for Oklahoma to get there. There's a chance you might get to go there and avenge your loss against Oklahoma State. So path for Oklahoma to get there, I think the best path is for Texas to lose. You got to have Texas lose a game. And if Texas loses a game, Kansas also has to lose. But then you're not having to rely on Kansas to lose and Oklahoma State to lose twice. What's your thoughts?
I'm with you on that. I think Kansas has Tech and K-State. And when I look at the standings for the Big 12, that K-State game could be the one. And tiebreaker-wise, Oklahoma would have the better overall record, but they could be hurt because Kansas State has more in-conference points. So you would need a miracle you need Iowa State to pull off 2 big wins. You need Iowa State to beat Kansas State as well as Texas. It's going to be your best option, if anything. Oklahoma State's got a pretty easy path, but they're Oklahoma State. There's a very good chance they're going to lose one of these last games. Ollie Gordon's cooking, but there's a good chance they could lose one of these 3. It's 3 games. It's a good chance. So you want to bank, if anything, Kansas State's the team that you're looking forward to making this causing disruption. And then Oklahoma's got to go out there and get some style points for the next 3 weeks. A lot of style points.
And Ollie Gordon's cooking, but can a BYU defense or anybody stop him? I mean, I get the Oklahoma State game against BYU's not in Provo, but because I'm not looking at Houston and UCF. I don't think they're good enough to stop him.
Yeah, that's a good question. Oklahoma State's schedule. Thinking PG, the game to look out for is going to probably be, I'd say, traveling to UCF. Actually, in traveling to Houston, too. Houston's not very good, but Houston may do something stupid and win. Diamond Smith's out there putting up numbers. Right? They beat West Virginia. They grinded it out against Texas and then just dropped a dud against Kansas State. Don't mean that they can't pull this one off.
Houston's competitive. They're just they're some pieces away from where they can compete at a good level in the Big 12.
No, I agree.
So path for Oklahoma to get there, you've got to have Texas to lose. You're saying K-State and Kansas. Then you're looking at Bedlam and Arlington. Assuming Oklahoma State takes care of business.
It's true.
All right. Well, Jay, final thoughts on the game, because I'm still not all there. I'm still not all there with it. I'm having a hard time with it. 2021, 2023. Gosh. I mean,
yeah, I know. Losing on the road sucks, especially to them. 91, 20-7 is still the record. For me, I'm fine. I hate losing to Kansas and Oklahoma State. This ain't our first time losing to Oklahoma State, though. We lost 2 years ago, just like you said. I don't like the idea of it, but guess what? We can bounce back. We can bounce back. We just now need to get healthy and execute. And I'm putting this all on the shoulders of Brent Venables on this next home game. You're playing at home against West Virginia. You better have that thing buttoned up. Stop talking to the refs. You need to hire a get-back coach. But stop hoping the refs are going to treat you right, because they're not.
Hey,
Period.
I told Cooper I had an easy solution to Brent Venables getting on the field, because this has been a problem all season, even with it just not talking to the refs. Like, sideline warnings have been a problem. You have a bunch of walk-ons who aren't playing. They're big boys. Then you ain't got to hire nobody.
I mean, there's a reason why they ain't playing.
Make them earn a spot on the team. Be my get back.
I mean, they're doing that in practice now. So unless you see the execution in practice, there's a reason.
I'll say
always
this.
Remember that.
Going into the game this week, or exiting the game this week, I want to end it here with some positives. I think your running game really showed you a lot this week. Gavin Sawchuk was phenomenal. 13 carries, 111 yards, 8.5 average, 1 touchdown. Tawi Walker, who I think we were pretty much under the consensus this guy wasn't going to play, 8 carries, 59 yards, 7.5 yard average, 1 touchdown. The blocking when it came to the run game was much better. And I think it was because you knew who your 1 and your 2 were. Javonte Barnes was out there, but he was out there for one carry, which I think was the fumble, for 9 yards. Other than that, I look at the passing game, and if you can be aggressive like you were all the rest of the season, you get the ball to Farouk, get the ball to Anderson, get the ball to Stoops, you're probably winning the next 3 games by an average of 30 points. If you put this same type of offensive performance out for the next 3 games, you should be able to win the next 3 games by 30 points each. Because the other 3 teams that we're playing, they're not as good as Oklahoma State. I know Oklahoma State lost to South Alabama. They're still a good team.
Yeah, Gundy's not a bad coach. We have to give him props for winning with less, like he always does.
Well, yeah,
we just don't like
your
him as a person.
Are at home.
You know, granted, I get you.
Yeah, 2 of your games are at home.
Yeah,
I mean,
2 of our next 3 games are at home.
That's what I'm saying.
As
You
long
put
as we
this
win
same
3.
offensive performance out on the field without, I mean, obviously without the fumbles, right, and the interception, which you would expect. Those will get cleaned up. But you put the same offensive performance out on the field, you're winning your games by 30 plus for the next 3 games. And then maybe you don't have, I don't know, maybe you start to see a little bit more out of Lebby. Because I think we started to see a change in Lebby this week. The question is, can Lebby be more consistent in that change? And then he's just got to get better throughout his play calling at the end of the games. That's where I'm at. I've got to end the game with some positives so that we're not walking out of here with the loss. I mean, we're walking out with the loss anyways, but we're not walking out with the loss and with our heads down like there was nothing good that you could take from this game.
Yeah,
the opportunity.
I'm not the type of person to ever think that.
There's gonna be a lot of people here.
That's the one thing you won't get out of me.
Jay, I just want you to make a video that says
that's
the world is falling.
Yeah, I should do that, because then I'd get a ton of clicks and people will lose their minds. But I'm not. That's not my my flavor. We talked about it via text. I always jump on you when it comes to too much irrational thought. Don't let that seep into your system and just think the world is over, because the season's not over. We still got games to play. And I get people, I understand. Somebody tweeted out that the players didn't get it. And I was just like, Because I think one of the players stated that, we've got to start focusing on West Virginia. And that's what I want my players' mentality to be. Next game. Your goals go 1-0. We're 0-1 2 weeks in a row.
Since we're talking about the players, should we bring up the situation that happened during the game and talk about that? Or should we just leave that to rest? And we don't have to mention the player.
If you want. I don't feel
you can't
like
have that happening. I don't know how that's happening, but you can't have that happening.
Oh, I can tell you how it's happening. I can tell you why it's happening. Same reason I told you who's probably to blame for a lot of this.
There's a reason why this guy's not playing right now anyways.
That's why.
We're going to leave it at that.
There's a lot of reasons I don't feel like he ain't playing, but still.
We're going to leave it there because I don't think we need to dive into that too much, but Oklahoma's got to get that cleaned up. Jay, where can people find you at?
Find me, Unfair Sports, on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listen to. Just find me.
All right. If you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you guys are listening to this on Apple, Google, or Spotify, do the thing over there. 5 stars, review, share it with a friend. We'd love to have you guys